We believe that this is an abduction of some sort.
A beautiful young woman vanishes from her Florida condo.
Personally, I thought after the very first day, maybe even the second day, that she was trafficked.
A sketchy surveillance tape is her family's only hope.
The person's face is hidden behind a large beam.
In Oklahoma, 2 teenagers disappear after a mysterious house fire.
The last thing she told me was, "I love you, Daddy."
And the search for the girls unearths a heinous crime.
I could make out the perfect outline of a man laying face up on the floor.
Now, Beth Holloway goes on location to help 2 families unravel the mysteries.
She'd come right down the sidewalk
and discover the truth about their missing loved ones.
In 2005, I got the call telling me that my daughter, Natalie, had vanished. Every parent's worst nightmare became my reality.
I asked the world to help me.
I found myself in an unimaginable fight. My search for answers gave me a new mission in life: bring the missing home and criminals to justice.
In the case of a missing person, all you can hope for is hard evidence, something tangible that will help investigators locate your loved one. Often it's as simple as a drop of blood or a partial fingerprint. But for 2 parents in Orlando, even a photo of the prime suspect hasn't been enough to bring their daughter home.
In 2003, 22-year-old Jennifer Keese graduates from the University of Central Florida and begins to build her life.
Extremely, extremely independent, intelligent, funny, very quick-witted, compassionate.
Very stubborn.
Very stubborn. Knew what she wanted and went after it.
We used to tell her to reach for the stars, you just might catch one.
Hello, I'm Jennifer Kennedy, and I am one of the runners of the party, and I have been asked to supervise. Also, this is my business company.
By 2005, all of Jennifer's dreams seem to be coming true. She's got great friends and a great job as a financial analyst with a mortgage company.
This is an exciting time in your life. You know, you just went from a college stage to, now you're really out on your own, and we were enjoying it.
Jennifer has also purchased her first home, a condo in an upscale Orlando neighborhood.
That is a huge feat. Drew and I feel very, very blessed to see your child evolve and grow into this strong, confident, independent young woman.
Along with her new condo, Jennifer has a new boyfriend, Rob Allen.
If you get past the physical beauty, which obviously it's hard to, but if you take that out of the equation, then she's very warm, she's very intelligent, she's a very caring individual. And she's just magnetic. She's someone that you want to be around.
The relationship has one obstacle. Rob lives around 2 hours away in Fort Lauderdale. Jennifer loves her job and is reluctant to move away from Orlando.
You know, it was a long distance, so it's hard, but, she would go down there on the weekends or he would come up.
They were both driven, and they both had very good jobs. It was, I think I love you, but I have so much here, it's got to be real.
Despite the distance, Jennifer and Rob's relationship continues to grow. Along with the weekend visits, they talk to each other several times a day. There's always a phone call on the way to work in the morning, and another just before they go to bed at night. 2 months after Jennifer moves into her new condo, she and Rob travel to St. Croix for a vacation.
It was kind of like decompressed from everything at work. Obviously, with us doing a long-distance relationship, it was nice to spend a week with someone that you care about.
She called her parents, said she was having a fabulous time.
After 4 wonderful days in St. Croix, Jennifer and Rob fly into Miami. Instead of driving straight back to Orlando, Jennifer stays the night with Rob in Fort Lauderdale.
As she did a lot of times when she came down, would just get up in early morning on a Monday and drive straight into work. She'd always called me on a commute, just be kind of like, hey, look, have a great day. Just usual talk.
That evening when she gets home, Jennifer calls her mom to tell her about the trip to St. Croix. Then she ends her day as she always does, on the phone with Rob. But after a long weekend together in paradise, the couple is having a difficult time readjusting to their separate lives.
The last person to talk to her at 9:57 p.m. was Rob, and they were having somewhat of a little bit of a spat because it was, okay, now we're apart again.
Which is natural.
And yes, and it was the testing of the wills of who was going to break down, and Jennifer's stubborn. It's our understanding. She just said, Rob, I'll talk to you in the morning. I'm tired. I'm going to bed.
After their argument the night before, Rob isn't too concerned when the following morning he doesn't get his usual call.
And didn't hear anything from her, so I was like, okay, maybe she's got a meeting or she had to go in early.
But Jennifer hasn't made it into work, and her boss is concerned.
I got the phone call from her employer asking if there was a family emergency. I said, no, why? Well, I don't want to alarm you, but Jennifer hasn't shown up for work.
Jennifer's boss also tells the Keeses that his calls to her phone are going straight into voicemail.
Normally, when you would call Jennifer, would her phone ever be turned off?
Never.
Never. Jennifer's phone is her lifeline.
The minute I heard that, I felt like somebody punched me in the stomach. I'm like, what do you mean?
Where is Jennifer Keese? For the next several hours, her parents try to answer that question. But their calls continue to go unanswered.
At this time, were you and Joyce both beginning to come to this thought process that, I mean, there is something terribly wrong with Jennifer, that she could be being...
When I ring Jennifer on the phone, that's it. She picks up. I don't care what it is. She will stop what she's doing. From that, from that point on, then I knew something was wrong too.
It's now been 13 hours since anyone has heard from Jennifer. The Keeses make a frantic 2-hour drive from their home across the state to Jennifer's condo in Orlando.
I called the management and said, could you go down and see if her car is in her parking spot? And the manager came back and said that, no, her car is not there. We started calling the jails and the hospitals.
When the Keeses arrive at Jennifer's condo, they confirm what the apartment manager has told them. Jennifer's car is not in the parking lot. Her front door is locked, and Drew uses his key to get in. Inside, things seem eerily normal.
The bathroom and the bedroom were as if she got ready and went to work. The shower store was wet. Her towel was wet and draped over her washing machine. There was nothing
out of place.
Out of place. Her hair brush was there. Her makeup kit was there. The blow dryer was all, right in place where she would use it and what have you.
There are a few things missing, though. Jennifer's purse, her car keys, briefcase, and cell phone. The Keeses ultimately decide to call the police. But when an officer meets them at the condo, he sees no cause for concern.
He greeted us, went in, basically really just looked around, and he just shrugged his shoulders and said, she's probably had a fight with her boyfriend. She'll be back.
Was Jennifer's disappearance the result of a fight with Rob? Her parents don't think so. Instead, the Keeses file a missing persons report and take to the streets. They also offer up thousands of dollars in reward money for information leading to Jennifer's safe return.
By 4 o'clock, we had tens of thousands of flyers. We had all of our friends. We had 14 people in by that night on all the major corners, passing out flyers.
In the initial stages, Jennifer's family made sure that everyone rallied. They made sure that it was out there in the public.
But despite the Keeses' efforts, they are still no closer to finding their daughter. Police ping her cell phone, but get no response. And even though there were workmen in the condo next door and landscapers working throughout the complex, no one claims to have seen Jennifer leaving her apartment that morning.
They cannot tell us if she walked out that front door, if she made it out the front door, vanished.
She's vanished. People don't vanish.
With no other leads, police turn their attention to the last person to speak to Jennifer. her boyfriend, Rob Allen.
People closest are always the ones that are the people that get blamed, but at the point, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get Jen home. So if that means them investigating me 1,000 times to prove that I'm not the culprit, then that's fine.
With no physical evidence, Rob is eventually eliminated as a suspect. The search for Jennifer is leading nowhere. Orlando, Florida, 2005. Jennifer Keese has mysteriously disappeared from the condominium where she lives. 24 hours have passed, and Jennifer's parents are desperate to find her.
You can stand at her front door and ask, up, down, left, or right. Where? Not a clue. Vanished is the word they use constantly.
Finally, 2 days after Jennifer's disappearance, there's a break in the case. Police find Jennifer's car parked in an apartment complex about a mile from her home.
When the car went to be processed, was there any evidentiary material that was retrieved from the car?
The car seemed to have been wiped down. Valuables were left in her car that could have been pawned. She had a DVD player in the back seat. They didn't steal it to steal it for the car because they dropped it 1.2 miles down from where we're sitting.
The discovery of Jennifer's car only deepens the mystery surrounding her disappearance. Police decide to search the woods around Jennifer's condo and the apartment complex where her car was found. They're hoping to find her missing purse, cell phone, or briefcase.
We're looking for articles of clothing, anything that might lead us to Jennifer's whereabouts.
The police would take horses into the woods and do searches till nightfall, and they would have helicopters out in the, remote areas.
The searches yield no new evidence. The chances of finding Jennifer are dwindling day by day. But just as hope begins to fade, police uncover a promising lead. 2 surveillance cameras capture Jennifer's car being parked by the pool at the apartment complex where it was later discovered.
The person parked into the parking space, stayed in for 32 seconds, got out of the car, closed the door behind him, walked, never looked back.
The driver is clearly not Jennifer, but the image is blurry. And that's not the only problem.
The person's face is hidden behind a large beam going through fence posts, so we could not see in every single picture. We're sitting there and we're like, oh my God.
It had to be so incredibly
maddening. Maddening. It would be, it's not frustrating,
Yeah.
It was maddening that the luck of a criminal, that their gait stride would put their face from their ears forward, obscured by the fence posts.
Desperate for leads, police go public with the surveillance video images.
We believe that this is an abduction of some sort. We are not sure whether it's an abduction and she's being held someplace against her will, or whether it's an abduction and a homicide.
We're absolutely positive someone has the information we need to bring this young lady home.
Jennifer's case has the full attention of both media and law enforcement, but her parents are beginning to fear the worst.
My thoughts, as crude as this may sound, is, was she being raped?
Were you playing out in your mind different scenarios?
I thought after the very first day, maybe even the second day, that she was trafficked.
With the release of the video images, hundreds of leads pour in. Though none of them can be concretely tied to human traffickers, they offer investigators their first real hope of IDing the man they believe can lead them to Jennifer.
The clothes appear to be a painter or construction type person within an apartment complex or a condo complex somewhere in the area.
The morning that Jennifer vanished, there were workmen next door to her apartment. The theory resonates with Jennifer's parents.
The 2 months that she lived in this condominium complex, she had verbalized to many people that the workers made her feel uneasy. They were not overtly harassing her, but they would stop and stare at her.
Because she was uncomfortable enough to express this.
And not
to
just
you.
to us. And she's like, no, they make me feel uneasy.
If police can find out which workers were in Jennifer's condo, or which ones have prior criminal records, they might be able to identify the man in the surveillance video. But the condo's management company keeps no such records. 2 weeks have now passed, and the Keeses are no closer to finding their daughter. Rather than giving up, they increase the number of flyers circulating and launch an all-out media blitz.
We created flyers in Spanish, English, and Creole. We did our own decks of cards for Jen. We did books of matches. She was on NASCAR race car, had I don't know how many billboards.
The Keeses' efforts amount to one of the largest missing persons campaigns ever seen. One unwanted side effect is that it yields hundreds of false leads.
You hear every story, you get notes passed to you that your daughter's chopped up and she's down in the sewer. Or, well, she's by palm trees and water. It's almost mean. It's almost cruel.
But as hope of finding Jennifer begins to fade, a shocking development reignites the investigation and brings her family face to face with their worst fears. Thanks to an anonymous tip, police have reason to believe that Jennifer's remains are buried near a walking trail about 1 mile from her condo. Within hours, investigators are scouring the area. It's not long before they make a startling discovery.
They had a credible tip, and the dogs they identified on a body.
Next to the day that we found out that Jennifer was gone, that was probably the hardest day.
We had such feeling in the pit of our stomach that it's time.
I talked to the Keeses that day, and they said, you know, we think this is it. Was credible. Be prepared that this may be it.
At 8 o'clock in the morning, backhoes are brought in, and police begin to dig.
It's easier when all they're bringing up is dirt, but when they start bringing clothes up and you know that a dog hit on DNA and you were told 5 minutes before to prepare yourself, I don't think you know how to prepare yourself.
Jennifer's loved ones have braced for the worst. However, the dig uncovers nothing but some debris. There's no further evidence to suggest Jennifer's body is anywhere near the area.
You know, them saying, just be prepared. And just my stomach dropped and I couldn't believe it.
For the Keese family, it's just another in a long string of disappointments and dashed hopes.
Thank you folks so much.
Thank you.
One part of you craves that it was Jennifer, so that we could actually give her a proper memorial service. And finally people can begin to heal, because you can't heal without answers.
People don't think that you don't feel your heart hurt, physically hurt. My heart physically hurts. I can feel my heart hurt.
Jennifer's case has grown cold, but her parents haven't given up hope or stopped searching for the man they believe holds the key to finding their daughter.
I feel like you guys are thinking you'll get an answer, and that is my prayer for you too. You want to know what happened, no matter what it is. No matter what it is. Right. You just want to know the details, what happened, where is she?
Do we pray for the miracle of an answer? Absolutely. And we'll take the answer for the good, for the bad, but that is right now what we hope for, is that miracle of an answer.
Yeah, you know, some people, and I'm sure same thing with you, Beth, some people say, well, you know she's dead. Can't you move on? Like, no. If you give me a chip that big of my daughter's bones, okay, that's fine, then we know. Then we know.
Jennifer Keese was last seen in 2006. She would now be 30 years old. She's 5'8" with a slender build, blonde hair, and a distinctive cleft chin. She also has a shamrock tattoo on her right hip. If you have information about Jennifer, please go to mylifetime.com/vanished and click on the tips button. Coming up, 1999, the rolling farmland of eastern Oklahoma. Teenagers Laura Bible and Ashley Freeman are as close as two friends can be.
The girls were your girls next door. They were cheerleaders, basketball players.
Until tragedy strikes.
And you think your children are safe, but they're not.
We just knew they were gone. Both girls were gone.
Or are they?
By 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we knew that the girls were nowhere in there.
Where are Laura and Ashley? The only person who seems to know is a convicted killer.
Look me in the eyes and tell me if you're responsible for their death.
Now, Beth Holloway explores the chilling details of Laura and Ashley's disappearance and joins the Bible family in their search for answers.
Losing a loved one in a fire is an unthinkable tragedy. For one family, the sadness is even greater. They found 2 bodies in the ashes of a devastating blaze. But it's what they didn't find in those ashes that continues to haunt them to this day.
Craig County, Oklahoma. The rolling farmland is home for teenagers and best friends, Ashley Freeman and Laura Bible.
Well, Laura and Ashley grew up together, so they knew each other their whole lives. And Ashley was in our home a lot. I mean, she'd come and stay 3-4 days. During the summer, she'd stay for weeks at a time.
Ashley is on her high school basketball team. Laura is a cheerleader. And when the 2 teenagers aren't at practice, they're busy raising livestock to show at the county fair.
Did Ashley and Laura, did they ever get into trouble?
No. No.
Just plain old no.
They were outgoing, good academically. They found the good in things.
During Christmas break of 1999, the 2 16-year-olds leave the Bible's farmhouse and head to Ashley's for a sleepover.
The last thing she told me was, "I love you, Daddy." And out the door they went. You don't realize when your child says, "I love you, Daddy," that it's going to be the last thing they say to you sometimes.
The next morning, the Bible's world comes crashing in. A sheriff's deputy shows up at Lorene's work with alarming news. There's been a devastating fire at the home where the girls are staying.
And I said, "How bad is it?" Just like this, "How bad is it?" And he's like, "The house is totally gone."
What was going through your mind?
That you have to stay calm. People will tell you, even to this day, "You seem so calm." Well, I'm not calm. My mind is exploding. But if I lose it, then who's going to ask the questions that need to be asked?
Fearing the worst, the Bible's race to the smoldering site, only to find they have to wait. The situation is so dire that the Craig County Sheriff's Office has called in the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation to handle the search. But it will be 3 hours before the OSBI arrives. The wait is almost more than the Bible family can bear.
This is as far as we were able to come. They had a big yellow "Do Not Cross" sign right here, and all we could do is stand on this side and watch the activity that went on up there.
So who's talking to you?
Nobody's talking.
Nobody's
They're
coming
not
to...
saying nothing at that time. You're standing there looking at a good half a dozen deputies standing around. One's got a clipboard and checking everybody in and out from their crime scene tape, and nobody's coming to say, "Hey, this is my daughter," and nobody's saying anything to me,
No.
I want to know.
When the OSBI finally arrives, they begin sorting through the charred rubble of the Freeman home and confirm that the fire was fatal. But there's only one dead body, and it's the body of an older woman.
He said there's a ring on a band on her left hand.
At 6 p.m., the OSBI finishes their search and releases the crime scene.
There should have been 2 adults, Danny and Kathy Freeman, their daughter, and one guest, a 16-year-old guest, Laura Bible.
Adding to the mystery, the Freemans' 2 cars are still parked in the driveway, as is Laura Bible's Chevy, the keys still hanging in the ignition. The family can only hope that the girls have escaped the blaze. But why would they run? It's a mere 35 degrees outside.
It's hard to think clear in a situation like that. We just knew they were gone. Both girls were gone. All of the cars were there, so they should have been there.
With no other bodies found in the ashes, investigators shift their focus to the one set of remains they did find and make a chilling discovery.
The medical examiner had completed the exam of Kathy Freeman and determined that she had been shot in the head and was a homicide victim.
If Kathy Freeman has been the victim of a homicide, then Laura and Ashley are no longer just missing children. They've seemingly disappeared on foot in the middle of the night from the scene of a brutal murder.
So now we know it's not just a fire.
She was shot from the back of the head. You know, that's a lot of rage.
Was there a killer on the loose? Or was this the scene of a domestic squabble gone horribly awry? Based on a prior incident involving a member of the Freeman family, it was a question investigators have to ask.
Danny Freeman had a son named Shane. About a year before this incident, Shane had run away from home, had broken into neighbors' homes, and had stolen some items. Shane was finally caught up with on a county road. That arrest ended up in a shooting.
A shooting that cost Shane Freeman his life, and according to some, sent Danny Freeman over the edge.
Word had been leaked that morning that Danny had went off the deep end. Yeah. He'd shot Kathy and had the girls and wanted to trade the girls for the deputy that shot his son.
So stories are rampant. It's hard to make any sense of what's transpired or what is transpiring.
Had a disturbed Danny Freeman killed his wife and then set the trailer on fire? If so, where were Laura and Ashley?
Are you thinking then Danny maybe had scooped the girls up to flee somewhere?
Somebody called and said that they'd seen Danny that morning at 6:45 in a white Ford truck, had Laura and Ashley with him.
We prayed all night long that first night, things was going. It just praying to God that she'd be all right. We're just thinking, it's cold. Is she warm? And things like that. All that stuff is running through your mind. You go back to praying just to get that off your mind. You do anything you can to keep those kind of thoughts out of your head.
In an effort to locate Danny and the girls, investigators initiate a search of Craig County. But Jay and Lorene Bible are desperate for answers. They decide to take matters into their own hands and head back to the charred rubble of the Freeman home.
There was nobody to keep us back down here. We drove all the way up to the fire, and we stepped over into it. Jay and I squatted down where the floors had fell through and looked underneath to see if we could find anything.
On December 30th, 1999, 16-year-old Laura Bible and Ashley Freeman have vanished from the scene of a mysterious house fire where Ashley's mother Kathy was found murdered. Investigators speculate that Ashley's father Danny might have murdered his wife and then fled with Laura and Ashley after setting fire to his home. But Jay and Lorene Bible are conducting their own investigation of the Freeman home. And just minutes after their search begins, they make a shocking discovery.
I could make out the perfect outline of a man laying face up on the floor. He'd had his face shot off with a shotgun.
The Bibles have discovered the body of Danny Freeman. How could investigators have missed it?
They literally had to have been walking all over his body around there while they were doing their investigation.
They did, because the more we looked at Danny's body, he had footprints down his legs.
I mean, you had to have just been absolutely beside yourself.
I mean, at that point, you explode. How could they miss this? They stepped on Danny Freeman. They didn't look. We were going to be in charge of this investigation from that point.
What in your minds did you think you might find?
I was hoping to find my daughter.
The Bibles call everyone they know. Within minutes, there's a full-blown search underway.
We were able to get some of the family and friends to come over, and we started picking furniture or pieces of whatever was left, and we took it out of the burn and we moved it over here and made big piles.
In doing so, the Bibles uncover more evidence. They find their daughter Laura's purse, her Christmas money still tucked inside. But there is no other trace of Laura or Ashley.
We brought in saws and we sifted the dirt, looking for bones. And probably by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we knew that the girls were nowhere in there.
Are you at that point, then, are you relieved and think, okay?
Frustration still right there. We're still just, it's just as high, and what's happened to them? Where are they at?
The first 24 to 48 hours of any missing persons, any crime, is critical. So we've already lost 24. Now we just went to 48. So the girls aren't in there. You can be anywhere in 48 hours.
On New Year's Day, 700 volunteers show up to help the family search a 10-mile radius around the crime scene. But the search party comes up empty-handed, and some people in Craig County begin to wonder if the girls are on the run from the law.
Was there any talk or speculation that Laura and Ashley had something to do with the deaths of Kathy and Danny?
Not really outright to us. No one said anything, but, you know, we knew what they was looking at, you know, every scenario.
Laura's car was parked in front of the Freemans. The keys were in the ignition, and you found her purse in the house with $200. If the girls had shot Danny and Kathy, they would have took Laura's car and they would have took her purse.
Certain that their daughter Laura and her friend Ashley are victims, the Bibles continue their relentless search for the girls. Tips that the Freeman murders might be drug-related lead them into dangerous territory.
We might drive 200 miles in a night, going down, tracking down leads. We had our own little investigation team for a while, Lorene and I.
Would people call you directly?
Yes.
Yeah.
These people, we met many drug dealers.
Wow.
One guy looked at me in the face and said, "Why would you come meet me?" "Because you have information that may lead to my daughter. And I'll meet you at 2 o'clock in the morning on a dark county road to get the information to see if it's true." Would I have done that before this? There's probably no way under God's green earth I would have.
And would you do it today?
You call me, I'll be there. Don't care. Don't care. Time, day, when. I'll make it happen.
Despite the Bible's sometimes dangerous efforts, they're no closer to finding their daughter. With no suspects and no new leads, Jay and Lorene Bible wonder if anyone else still thinks their daughter and her best friend are even alive.
For me, the wintertime is the worst. You know, if she's out there and she's alive, you know, is she warm? Is she eating?
Finally, in January 2005, there's a break in the case. Authorities in Alabama notify the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation that they've gotten a shocking confession from a young convict by the name of Jeremy Jones.
Mr. Jones was convicted and sentenced to death in Alabama for the murder of Elisa Nichols.
There is an eerie similarity between the Nichols murder and the killing of the Freemans.
In the Freeman home, both Danny and Kathy were shot and the mobile home was set on fire. In the Nichols home, Lisa was killed and the mobile home set on fire.
In a formal interrogation, Jones gives cops his version of what happened that night.
He went through the kitchen into the master bath bedroom. 2 people in the bedroom, 2 shots.
He confessed to murdering the Freemans.
The details are chilling.
He killed the man first. He's the strongest one in the house. Everybody knows gunshot next to you is going to wake you up. Just slide to bed, shoot the second person.
But Jones claims his plan went awry when he encountered Laura and Ashley. He hadn't planned on the 2 girls being there.
They come running out of the house, scared to death, didn't know what was going on. I didn't know they was in there. You know, they see me, they ask me for help, I come get in the truck. You know, we'll go get some help, and then get them in the truck, hold them at gunpoint.
Finally, Jones confesses that the best friends died together.
You're going to tell them it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. Come up put a dog just looking for something, you know.
Jones' confession also includes facts never released to the public, including the exact location of the Freeman's trailer and type of gun used to kill Danny and Kathy.
You told me before what your weapon of choice was.
Shotgun.
Thanks to the detailed and gruesome confession of Jeremy Jones, Jay and Lorene Bible's search for their daughter Laura and her best friend Ashley seems to be coming to a tragic end. Jones claims that not only did he shoot and kill Danny and Kathy Freeman, he killed Laura and Ashley too.
You told me before what your weapon of choice was.
Shotgun.
What do you think of the Jeremy Jones confession? That
You either did it or you were there and saw it done. Was the only reason you could have this type of information.
But one fact Jeremy Jones' confession doesn't include is the location of Laura and Ashley's bodies. 6 long months go by before detectives finally convince Jones to tell them where they can find Laura and Ashley.
He explained to us that he dumped both bodies in the Galena, Kansas area in mine shafts. He showed us on a map exactly where he dropped the bodies.
Police descend on the area with cadaver dogs.
We looked for 2.5 days, but we're unable to find any bodies.
Investigators are beginning to doubt Jeremy Jones is telling the truth. When they look deeper into his story, they uncover a telltale piece of circumstantial evidence.
On the morning that the fire was discovered, Jeremy was arrested on a charge about an hour and a half after the fire started. Theoretically, he could have disposed of the girls the way he said he did, but everything would have had to have been just about perfect. And he was arrested for public intoxication, so I'm not sure he could have done everything perfectly that day.
We have no evidence that he committed the crime. There's not enough to convict him of that crime just because he confessed.
Jeremy is like a lot of murderers that end up on death row. They have nothing left, and psychologically they just try to make a name for themselves. He has confessed to a lot of murders.
Look me in the eyes and tell me if you're responsible for their death.
I'm responsible for their death.
Investigators' theory about Jones is well-founded. A few months later, Jones recants his confession. He now claims to know nothing about the disappearance of Laura or Ashley. The Bibles aren't so sure.
when Jeremy Jones retracted his confession, did that dishearten you?
No, we couldn't rule him out, and we won't rule him out until we probably talk to him face-to-face ourselves.
You think you would ever do that, Lorraine?
You're telling people that you killed my daughter. Look me in the eye. You know?
Since Jeremy Jones' confession, another convicted murderer named Tommy Sells has also claimed responsibility. His confession was also proven to be false. Today, the Bibles are no closer to understanding what happened the night their daughter vanished. But they continue to do everything they can to preserve the memory of their daughter.
It was something that I read, and it was about the Christmas tree, and it just, you know, when I think about that.
Laura put the Christmas tree up.
Just devastating.
It took us over 5 years before we took it down.
People would buy stuff, and then we'd hang it on that tree, and it got to the point that I moved it to clean it and get the dust and stuff off of it, and the weight of everything, it just snapped it in half. But we'd always said that the tree was going to stay up until Laura come home.
That is just such a tribute.
It's my only little girl.
Yeah.
You've experienced it. You have to do it. You can't not do it. All I had to hang on to from the good Lord above was everything's going to be all right. That was the only word that stuck with me, that, you know, everything's going to be all right.
Hope keeps Lorene and Jay Bible going. But more than a decade after their daughter and her best friend vanished, they have more questions than answers. To find the answers they're looking for, the Bibles need your help. Someone out there knows something.
Laura and Ashley were last seen in northeast Oklahoma in December 1999. Ashley is 5 feet 7 inches tall and has a small scar on the right side of her forehead. Laura is 5'5" with brown, naturally curly hair. Laura would be 28 years old, and Ashley would be 27. If you have information about Laura or Ashley, please go to mylifetime.com/vanished and click on the tips button.
Well, Drew and Joyce, I see you still keep Jennifer's picture so beautifully displayed.
And we lovingly refer to the cars as Genmobiles. You know, as parents, there's very little that you can do. We're not detectives, but what we can do is help continue to create the awareness. And that's what we're after, because without the awareness, the chances for us to find Jennifer are dramatically reduced.